What's happening, everyone? We're back again with another video. We are going to be fitting some performance cams on the ST. These cams are made by Neumann, which are the Phase 2 edition. This is quite a late intro because this is the next day, but it doesn't matter too much because I can sort of advise you now, please do not do this the way that we did. We really struggled to put it back together. But without further ado, let's get into the video.
Okay, so our main objective to start this whole thing off is just get the rocker cover off. So we unplug the big wiring loom on the left hand side there, like so. And then you just want to now remove any bolts that are holding the rocker cover on. You'll have giant plastic stud covers which are about 15mm, and the rest of the bolts are literally just 8s, 10s, so just bear that in mind. And once all the bolts out and stuff like that, just make sure any other plugs, pipes, HT leads are all removed as well, ready for when you actually remove the rocker cover itself. This job can be quite fiddly, so just take your time with it, no rush. And remember, undo the bolts in opposite motions. And the reason being for this is so you don't distort the rocker cover in any way, which could cause it to actually in turn not seal correctly. And also can lead to oil leaks in the future as well. So as you can see, just going bit by bit, removing the actual catch cam pipe as well, and you can see the HT leads are off, pretty much ready to come out now, but the cover's still quite stuck, so I'm just going over any other bolts that possibly could have a few threads still in there. Removing the plug as well for the cam position sensor. Be careful because they are quite delicate at times, they're only plastic. And as you can see, there is quite a bit of pressure holding that cover on. Still checking to see if there are any bolts, but they all appear to be okay. Now I'm just going to get a lever bar, and I just slowly tap it underneath the cover with my hand because you don't want to damage the face of the head and put any pit in, which could cause the cover not to seal again because it's an uneven surface. Just give it a few taps, lever up very gently, and you'll see that the pressure releases off of the cover. As you can see now, the pressure is off the cover pretty much. Now it's just a case of trying to get out of the way of all this bloody HT leads and loom all in the way as well. It is quite fiddly, so just be patient with it, it's not a problem. As you can see there, I've struggled quite a bit, so Luke's taken over now. That loom is quite tight. He eventually will just get a pair of cutters and cut a cable tie for it, as he sees there. And once the loom's, like the cable tie's cut, it now allows enough space to actually get the cover out with no issues. As you can see, the cover's quite milky inside, but again, that's because I have no PCV and the breather system's all different on this car. Now we're just removing the HT leads off the core pack. Don't worry too much about the order because they are labelled. Get that pipe tucked out of the way. Okay, so now you want to have the hole on that crankshaft pulley 45 degrees away from the one on the block, and you will have to remove a 10mm bolt by the driver's side drive shaft and insert your timing pin. Then obviously once you rotate the engine, it will lock to that position where you can actually put a stud in to lock the pulley off. This is very important because it stops the engine moving anti-clockwise or clockwise. Now this engine is fully locked off and cannot be moved from the bottom end. You will be able to put in a timing bar now on the cams. If you do find that it lines up but they're too low, it will be 180 degrees out, so just bear that in mind. And you can't really see nothing here because the GoPro's pretty much in the sky, but it's a 21mm socket on the cam, no, 21mm crow's foot on the cams, and a 27mm spanner on the cam shaft. So as you can see now, just cracking off the cams caps and doing it diagonally, and then once they're off enough, just zapping them off. But again, bit by bit, do not rush this because you will snap the cam. Just bit by bit, just taking your time. And once they're off, remove each cam cap individually, but make sure you put them in order because they are different to each other and you do not want to muddle these up. As you can see, we're just doing it one by one and replicating the actual cams on how they would sit in the rocker cover. And then literally just do the same thing for the exhaust cam as well. No different. Bit by bit, gently removing the bolts bit by bit. And then removing each cam cap one by one to know that you've got them in the correct order. And as you see, all the caps are off now. So this camshaft is pretty much ready to be removed. And as you can see there, all the cam caps are nicely laid out in order, ready to be refitted when the new camshafts are in. Okay, so 21mm on the actual camshaft pulleys. Just removing them now to actually finally release the cams. We did cable tie the timing chain to these pulleys so they stayed put. But just to bear in mind, if you was to do this job, please do it in a sense of you'd be doing a timing chain by removing all the timing cover. It makes life a bit easier because the tensioner popped right out on R1 and it was a nightmare to get these back in. So just please bear that in mind. I would not recommend doing it this way unless you have 3 very strong people to put it back. But as you can see now, the inlet cam is now out. And now just ready to do the same with the exhaust cam by removing the pulley. Now the exhaust cam is out as well. You will see a jump in footage now because we did struggle to get these back in, sorry. It was an absolute nightmare, so we do apologise for that, but at the end of the day we just needed to get these cams back in so we could reassemble the engine. But yeah, as you can see here, there's the specs that you require. 72 Newton meters for the cam pulleys and 7 Newton meters stage 1 for the cam caps. And then stage 2 was 16 newton meters. Again, going in opposites bit by bit, nothing too crazy, because again, if you do tighten one half down too tight, you could snap a camshaft. And you might see some orange sort of residue on the cam caps. Before fitting your new cams, we do advise fitting some cam lube of some sort, but mainly just work to the spec of what your manufacturer of your cams say. But I would always recommend a cam lube on the cams and the caps itself on the journals, just to provide that bit of protection when you're actually bedding in the cams and obviously starting it up, because the cams will be dry compared to the rest of the engine. Then again, 21mm crow's foot on the torque wrench to 72 newton meters, and counteract it with a 27mm spanner, or open adjustable spanner, sorry. We can see that a timing bar is in place on this one now, but again, we are counteracting the cam, so it shouldn't do nothing. But please do not tighten these camshaft pulleys up with just a timing bar locking these cams. You will either snap a cam or you'll snap the actual bar itself. I've seen many photos where people have done this or forgotten about it, and it's been pretty chaotic. So just counteract it like we did and you should be fine, or better off, remove the bar and then tighten the pulleys. And that's for the next one here as well. All torqued and okay. Okay, so as you can see there, I'm just turning the engine over 2 revolutions just to ensure that everything is okay and goes back into time before we end up reassembling the rest of the lump back together. And obviously turning the key, you just want to make sure that you do this one final check to make sure everything's in time. On this engine, you're pretty much accurate anyway because it's all locked off quite nicely, but I would always recommend doing this before you go any further. It's better to be safe than sorry. Okay, and as you can see there, chain tension is very tight because obviously that tension was pushed out, but it's good to have a tight, well, I mean, it's good that the chain has still got quite a bit of life left in it, but yeah, we was worried about a tightness on that. And again, one last little check just to ensure that she's in time. We didn't bother with the bar here because you can pretty much see that the cams are in time due to the slots at the end of them. And as you can see there, the tension on the chain has freed up a little bit because it was extremely tight. Okay, so now we've just done a oil and filter change, and we're just filling it up with new oil, and we've decided to do it with the rocker cover off, just to give the cams a bit more lubrication before starting. Again, we would recommend doing it this way. It just saves any grief, because I mean I've fitted crate engines and stuff like that, and they've come dry. We've filled them up with oil and stuff like that, with obviously all the rocker cover still on, and they do rattle quite a bit on the first few seconds of startup. Again, you're always going to have a bit of increased wear by doing that, so doing it this way, at least you got some nice wet cams, and it worked lovely. When we started it up, it was as if we didn't touch it. Okay, so didn't really show this bit, but that tube that Luke had in his hand was just 2 blobs of sealer that we were going to apply on the seams of where the timing case meets the actual head itself, because if you don't add these 2 blobs of sealer, then you got pretty much a certain risk of it, of the rocker cover leaking. It's Ford's recommendation, so just be aware to do this. And as you can see, we're just refitting the coolant bottle, just buttoning up just a little bits and bobs now, getting ready to go back together. Now obviously that we have the blobs of sealer on, and obviously most of the stuff's buttoned up now, we can now do the other fiddly part, which is getting this rocker cover back on. Just be careful to avoid any plugs, cables whilst fitting, as you don't want to damage them, and as you can see, I'm pretty much doing a bad job of that. But a big shout out to Luke and his dad Chris for giving us a hand on this, because those cams are really tight to get back in. So if it wasn't for them two, I mean, this car wouldn't be back together. I physically on my own wouldn't be able to do this. It was just that tight. So big shout out to them too, as we wouldn't be having a running ST. So I'll leave Luke's Instagram in the description. Please be sure to give him a shout and follow, because he's got his new sort of up and coming company with the detailing now, and he did the paint correction on the ST and it's come out lovely and has lasted for quite a while now. So be sure to give him a check out, you will not regret it. His work is second to none, believe me. And as you can see now, just quickly blasting through this, just tightening the rocker cover down, obviously. Again, doing things in opposites just to ensure that the rocker cover seats down equally and obviously does not get distorted when we're fitting it. And just reconnecting any silly brackets, pipes, cable ties and all that sort of stuff, and then we're just going over the tightness of the bolts again just to be sure. Okay, so as you can see now, we're pretty much back together. All the HT leads are on, catch cans all linked up, looms plugged in, and we're nice and filled up with coolant. So now ready to start the car. I didn't show you any footage of it on the night because we just wanted to make sure everything ran okay, so you'll get the footage from a cold start the next morning.
Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. It is a bit different, being that a lot of it was voiced over and like a couple pictures were taken here and there. It's sort of a job that I didn't really want to do sort of live commentary on. I just wanted to concentrate on it. I mean, I haven't touched a car in quite a while now. It was sort of a fact of having to just build confidence back up and stuff like that. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time I pulled set cams out, probably over a year ago. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, as always, please ask, and like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.
it.